everyone. Earlier this week, I uploaded a live updates vlog from last weekend's 24 and 48 readathon. Basically, I bummed around my house all weekend whilst reading and wearing a couple of wintry hats. The highlight of the video is the appearance of my cute little dog. So now you don't have to watch it, and you're welcome. But in that video, I promised to do a wrap up of all of the books I read during the readathon, and I recorded one. And it was super rambly, and I still somehow managed to not say everything that I needed to say about the books that I read during the readathon, and realized that a lot of the books that I read last weekend deserve their own videos, but I promised a wrap up. So today I'm going to test out a new reviewing technique that was suggested to me by real life friend Tanya. I don't think you're watching, Tanya, but thank you. So today I'm going to share with you what I liked, what I didn't like, and what I took away from each of the books that I read last weekend. So let's get started. First, Ms. Marvel, Volume 1, No Normal, written by G. Willow Wilson, with art by Adrian Aldefano. Things I liked about this graphic novel: the artwork. The color palette and the line work are excellent in this graphic novel. I also really appreciated the protagonist being a woman of color, also the incorporation of her and her family's beliefs and culture. And perhaps my favorite aspect of this graphic novel is the coming of age aspect. I absolutely adored the idea of having to deal with this superpower that was unwillingly granted to you, but also having to deal with normal, everyday, growing up stuff. The one thing that I didn't like about this graphic novel was something that I think is the format and not necessarily this particular volume's issue, and it was that there was an advertisement for what I assume is another comic book series mid-story. It was towards the end, but confused me and left me feeling disjointed, but I think it's just something that I'm going to have to get used to. What I took away from this book is that, hey, maybe I do like superhero comics. I enjoy seeing a lady kicking ass, but I also enjoy seeing a young person trying to figure out who they are, but also having to deal with superpowers that they didn't ask for. And I look forward to reading the next volume of this, but also exploring the genre more. Next is Seconds by Brian Lee O'Malley. What I liked about this book was, of course, the artwork. I adore Brian Lee O'Malley's style, and the colorist for this, Nathan Fairbrain, oh my god, he totally gets me. I can't show you a panel in here that will do it justice. You'll have to check it out for yourself, or just trust me. The artwork is gorgeous. Without going into too much detail about the plot, this book has some really fun, timey-wimey elements, which I'm a total sucker for. Another aspect of this book that I really enjoyed was the female friendship that took place in this book. It warmed my heart and totally passed the Bechdel test, which shows you that you can have two females in a book and they don't have to talk about a guy. Another thing I loved about this book was O'Malley's sassy delivery of the moral of the story, which I won't say what it is because I don't want to ruin it for you. And last but certainly not least, I loved the little hidden references to the Scott Pilgrim series. I can't resist a good Easter egg. And things I didn't like about this book. I honestly can't pinpoint anything, but I could see how some people may not be able to suspend their disbelief for aspects of this story, which I totally understand, but I was able to. What I took away from this book is that the true importance of platonic friendship, and how no matter what the means, it's probably never going to work out well if you go back and change your mistakes. The next book is Yes Please by Amy Poehler. What I liked about this book was the aspects of her personal life that she shared. I also really enjoyed her unashamed honesty about aspects of her life and about ugly characteristics, and she wasn't afraid to share those. She was also super upfront about her blonde hair, blue-eyed, white lady privilege, which I really appreciated. I also loved the Parks and Recreation sections of this book, naturally, because it is what sparked my love for Amy Poehler in the first place. Also, this book was perfect for binge reading or a readathon atmosphere, and I also really loved the overall kind of girl power vibe that this book gave off. What I didn't like about this book were the bits on her comedy career, not because they were bad, but because I never really followed her comedy career in improv or her SNL career, so those bits kind of dragged out for me and were a tiny bit dull. The next thing I didn't like is, again, something more geared towards the format and not necessarily this book in general, is I'm not used to memoirs because I haven't read very many that aren't linear, and they hop around different aspects of one's life, ranging from childhood and then present and then back to like being a teenager, and it just kind of throws me off a little bit, but I think it's just, again, something that I'm going to have to get used to. Perhaps the most shallow dislike is the overall weightiness of this book. I know it's shallow, but I just gotta be real. What I took away from this book is that you can love your job and your family, and there's no shame in hiring a nanny if you have the means to do so. It can only enrich your child's life. Also, Amy Poehler and Tina Fey are OTP. I miss Parks and Recreation very much. And I can only imagine that this was a hella good audiobook experience and look forward to maybe experiencing it in that way in the future. The third book was The Gigantic Beard That Was Evil by Stephen Collins. What I liked about this book, again, was the art style. It's this beautiful graphite work that has this really awesome control of tones and creative uses of panels. I also enjoyed the social commentary on society separating itself or fearing things that don't fit into tidy little boxes like sexuality, gender roles, etc. My only dislike for this book is that I felt like it was a smidge heavy-handed and could have benefited from a smidge of subtlety. I came away with this book with a sense of hope for humanity and for the world that we live in currently. Also, Emily from Emily Jean recommends great little treasures, and beards are pretty cool. Next we have The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. What I liked about this book was the format. The chapters were teeny tiny little vignettes or glimpses into our main character's life. It gave us an interesting perspective into the character, but also into the community around her. I also really liked this because it reminded me a lot of my mother, who has shared stories that were very similar to the ones that were shared in this book. My dislike for this book is also the format, which I know is confusing, but I feel like it didn't give us enough insight into the character or even the community that she lived in. Basically, I just needed more. What I took away from this book is nothing super new, but it just reminded me the importance of diverse books. My mother is not much of a reader, but I feel like if she had something like this to read when she was a child, she may have become a reader because it was something that she could have probably related to as a young person. I mean, there's no way to know that for sure, but nonetheless, diversity in books is so important. And last but certainly not least is The Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss. Things that I liked about this book: I enjoyed the voice and exploration into the mind of someone who obviously has OCD tendencies, but I liked that it was packaged in this whimsical, magical kind of way. I also really loved kind of the format of this book. It's that thing that Patrick Rothfuss does where he separates stories into days. Each chapter was kind of like a day, and I really enjoyed that. Things I didn't like about this book: from the beginning, I felt like I was just thrown into this world and I had no idea what was going on. I felt kind of confused. Also, I don't think that this book is good for binge reading or reading very quickly. Rincey tried to warn me that this wasn't a good readathon book, but I'm stubborn and I read it anyway. I feel like this book is best enjoyed in small bits and savored. What I took away from this book is that Patrick Rothfuss obviously loves this character as much as his fans do. Also, that Rincey was right and that this book should not be read quickly. It should be savored and also read by people who are really big fans of the character and the series. Also, as Rothfuss says at the beginning in an author's note and at the end, this book breaks all the rules of traditional storytelling and is not for everyone. But last but certainly not least, I also took away that this book will definitely benefit from a reread in the future. So those are all of the books that I read during the 24 and 48 readathon. Please let me know what you thought of this wrap-up technique. And as always, please feel free to share your thoughts on anything that I said here today in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with a new video.